welcome to RetroLogic. I'm Sam Wagers, joined as always by John Cummins for round 2 of our discussion of canceled games. But first, how are you tonight, John?
Pretty good. We kind of had to cancel last week's show last minute, so fits right in with game cancellations.
Yeah, there were a lot of logistics. We were both traveling, so unlike those game cancellations, though, this episode was uncanceled.
Came back.
Because we know how much you wanted it, and we will not let lack of scheduling or lack of funding or anything else stop us. We're just gonna do it, you know?
That's right.
So we have also got community couch feedback for this week on the topic of canceled games. And this would be a good time to remind you that RetroLogic is not just a podcast, it is a whole community of retro gamers. We have an active, friendly, and free Discord. We have giveaways, we have contests, and we have a whole family of retro podcasts, including Retro Groove, Film Logic, On Topic Retro, and whatever else appears out of nowhere, because these things just happen sometimes. I would also mention that Plocktoberfest has in fact begun. Yes, even though it is still September, Plocktoberfest begins in September, like the real Oktoberfest. So it is fully appropriate and defensible to post all the Plock memes starting now.
Yeah, I think we had some confusion on that. A lot of people thought we were jumping the gun on the Plock.
I do this every year. I'm like, nah, Oktoberfest, Plocktoberfest. That's why I call it Plocktoberfest and not just Plocktober. Now, right. Plocktober, it might get even more intense. We'll see. You'll just have to stay tuned. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's Plock. We like to talk about Plock every October because then we can call it Plocktober, and that is the joke.
And all who talk Plock are Plock jocks.
Yes. Yes. So come Plock with us all about it on the Discord today. That's all I have to say about that. Yeah. So other than Plocktober, of course, we do have a few more housekeeping items. Update on Mega Man Battle Network streams. I have started Battle Network 4 Blue Moon, even though I forgot which version I meant to play, and I started playing Red Sun, which is fine, but that's the one I have on Game Boy Advance and have already played, so I sort of had to restart during the stream and pick the right version. I didn't get that far before I did it, though, so yeah, that's up on YouTube, on my channel, Third Strongest Mole, YouTube. You can check that out. I stream every Monday at about 7:30 p.m. to about 9 p.m. Sometimes a little later, depending on what I feel like doing and how everything's going. And you can see playlists as well of all of the Battle Network games up to Mega Man Battle Network 4, including even the ones not on the collection, which I am falling deeper into that rabbit hole. I have acquired a copy of Mega Man Battle Network 4.5, technically Rockman EXE 4.5. It's in Japanese. There is a fan translation patch for it, so I'm going to check that out after I finish Battle Network 4, because I'm insane. And I'm probably going to wind up getting the Wonder Swan game. I'm just accepting it now.
Too bad there's not a analog adapter for the Pocket for Wonder Swan. I don't think there was.
No, I'm kind of surprised there isn't. You know, they have adapters for everything else.
Yeah, because I have the Game Gear adapter, and then they just... Well, I pre-ordered the other set of 3, but I think that's Atari Lynx, TurboGrafx, and Neo Geo Pocket Color, or Pocket and Color, I believe, are the 3. No Wonder Swan.
Nope.
It's a sad day for Wonder Swan. You're just going to have to buy one.
Well, I suppose it would be... Because the Wonder Swan technically has 8 buttons, right?
Yes, because it's
One
made to
is
where you
often a
can.
D-pad.
Yeah,
It's sort of like the Switch D-pads being buttons.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's made so that you can play games vertically and horizontally.
Yeah. Which I guess, yeah, the Pocket. Okay, you got, if you count the D-pad as 4, then yeah, you're good. You have A, B, L, R D-pad. You even have Start Select too.
Yep.
Which I guess WonderSwan has a Start Select, doesn't it?
That I'm not sure of. I just know that it has 8 face buttons that are
It
like
would
coming
feel
to
different,
memory.
but it would be functional at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, get on that analog. Make a WonderSwan adapter.
Yep.
WonderSwan Color. Yeah. John, what's going on over with On Topic Retro?
Well, we just wrapped up the Retro Rewind Champions contest for Metroid Fusion. And let's see, who is the winner for that? Let me look really quick. I just
I think it
announced
was
this.
Steven's NES.
Nope, it was SNES
No.
is Life.
Ah, okay.
We
got
have
an
a
NES
competitor
and an
to
SNES in
yeah,
there.
to Steven
Yeah.
NES now.
Trying to be the super version.
Yeah, I think he beat. I think he thinks that he only won by like 10 minutes, but in reality, I'm pretty sure he beat the other fastest time by like an hour. It's or maybe it's 20 minutes or 30 minutes. It's more than 10 minutes. He was pretty quick. And so anyway, that one is done. So we've finished Metroid Fusion. I was going to record the episode this week, but since we had to juggle RetroLogic over to this week, I'm going to go ahead and push the recording of that show to next week. So everyone that's going to be looking forward to the Metroid Fusion show will just have to wait one more week. And then the next game vote went out last week, and we selected the next game on last Sunday, and that game was Joy Mech Fight. So everybody seemed to be pretty excited to play that. So the Retro Rewind Champion contest for that game is going to be a tournament, a 2-player tournament on the NSO app. So it'll be a best of 3 fights wins that spot, and then once I bring down the sign up sheet that's on our Discord, I will set the bracket up. So anybody that wants to join our tournament will need to join our Discord to get the link. Or I guess I could throw it in the show notes, but it's just easier to go to the Discord. We'll just keep pointing you back there. Anyway, there will be a tournament. I'll create the bracket once I get all the people that have signed up, and we'll should have that posted by at least Monday after this comes out, the following Monday. And we'll start setting up the tournament, basically giving out a certain amount of days that each round will go, and then everybody will have to kind of link up and find a time that works best to play their match, and then report back the winner. And then we'll go through the bracket that way. And then as far as the Becoming the Hero goes, that will be recorded. Now that's going to be pushed out a week, and we will be recording an episode on A Link to the Past. Will be the next game.
Yeah, it's a good one. All right. We also, of course, have Film Logic, which just released their year in review. I believe they are taking a break after that. So closing out their season, so to speak. But back with a vengeance for Season 3 is Retro Groove. Season 3, Episode 1, talking all about albums that shaped the industry. So you can check that out. And again, everything that we've mentioned can be found on our website, retrologic.games. One thing you can't find there, but I do want to shout out, especially if you like hearing my voice, is a gamer looks at 40, friend of the show, has been posting his series on Earthbound, which I got to be a part of. I think it's pretty great. I like listening to other people talk about Earthbound. I like talking about Earthbound myself. So if you do too, check it out. It's pretty good. It's a whole 4-part series. I think part 3 just went up this week.
But can you smell it?
Yes. It stinks. Well, with all that said and smelled, I think it's time for some Prices Retro.
Let's do it.
Alright, if this is your first time playing Prices Retro, here is how we play. I am going to list off 4 or 5 games, and everyone has to guess how much this lot is worth in total. Whoever guesses the closest to the actual value wins that round. Everyone has a list, and everyone guesses on each other's list. At the end, the player that won the most rounds wins the episode. But watch out for the robot, Deus Guess Machina. He averages all our guesses together to make a guess of his own. We only have 2 lists this week. It's just me and you.
So
Dual style.
So it's actually just me and you because the robot will be deactivated for this. You can't average one.
You can't average
one entry.
Well, you can average. Yeah, that's true.
It would just be the same as yours.
Well, it would just be the same. It's a tie.
It's
the
a
robot
tie.
ties. Actually, the robot would win because he gets to guess.
Yeah,
on
because
both.
he gets to
would
guess
have
on
2
both
rounds.
lists.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll
would have 2.
deactivate the robot
one.
for this game. Otherwise, he wins by default. So
yeah, that's true. Don't watch out for the robot.
Yep.
He's taking a break.
You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I can go first. I got my list right here. I don't know if I've used all these games before. I know I've used some of them, but prices change, so you can keep using the same games all the time. There is a theme. These games form a series, a very loosely connected, weird series. So I have Riviera, the Promised Land for the Game Boy Advance, loose.
Okay.
Yggdra Union for the PSP, complete in box. Nights in the Nightmare for the DS, complete in box. And Gungnir for the PSP, complete in box. So this is Sting's Department Heaven series, which there was an additional game planned for this series, which was canceled, which is why I brought it up for this episode. So there was supposed to be another installment in the series that was actually supposed to be an MMO for some reason.
Huh.
That was canceled. There's not a lot of info on it. It seems to have been canceled pretty early in development.
I think I'm going to go with $250 on this.
$250. All right. We will need absolute difference, otherwise we won't be able to decide a winner.
Yes.
Obviously, we both are going to win our rounds, so whoever's closer. The total is $194.58. So you're not off by much.
$194.58.
Yep. So Riviera for the Game Boy Advance loose is $36.85. Yggdra Union for the PSP complete $37.21. Nights in the Nightmare for the DS complete $70.11. And Gungnir for the PSP complete $50.41. I think Nights in the Nightmare has gone up. I think the others have gone down, which is interesting.
I think I have. I think Nights in the Nightmare was also on. Was it also on PSP? I don't remember. I thought I've had.
If it was,
I either have it for one or the other.
It actually got released on Switch, but only in Japan.
Oh, man, that's a letdown. It's a great game.
I was kind of waiting for that to come, but I need to finish that game. Yes, it was on the PSP as well.
That's what I was thinking. I think
cheaper.
I had the PSP version and sold it because I ended up getting.
To be fair,
the DS
loose
version.
It's only $40 for the DS, but I think I bought it for $20 some years ago.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, no, I was thinking that most of these games were going to be around that $50 price point, but I didn't know if some of them had gone up, so that's why I went over a little
Yggdra
bit.
Union is a lot pricier on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
But this was the PSP version.
That's what I was thinking. Okay. All right. I guess we'll get into my list, which I made about 20 minutes ago and was kind of steered in this direction by a message that Adam threw up about them re-releasing Azuna Legend of the Unemployed Ninja on the Switch. Apparently. I think he showed like a article where it was part of the what is that? The Japan game show or whatever they do like a week of game announcements and stuff. Tokyo Game Show. Why am I so like?
Yeah,
I'm foggy.
thing.
I'm foggy today.
That show in Tokyo
yes.
with the games.
But anyway, so this struck me to go to a list of ninja games and portable. Apparently, first game on the list is Ninja Gaiden: The Dragon Sword on the DS, complete in box.
I had this game.
So that also includes the little sword stylus.
Okay. With the sword. This has come up before.
I might have brought this one up before.
This has come up before.
The second game is Mystical Ninja, starring Goemon for the Game Boy.
Also a great game.
The third game, that one is complete in box as well.
Complete.
The third game is Ninja Boy for the Game Boy, complete in box. And the final game is Azuna Legend of the Unemployed Ninja for the Nintendo DS, complete in box.
Complete in box cartridge games always get me. That's not what I shop for.
Yeah, those games.
You know, if I were the type to complain, I would say that you're trying to stack the odds by picking a bunch of very expensive games. At least more so than my list. It's actually why I like the normal buy round thing, because it doesn't incentivize like super rare, crazy expensive games being picked all the time. But let's see. Okay, I'm just gonna say $700.
Okay. Let's see. So, hold on. Let me put that in. The total for my list is $687.83.
That's a win.
That is a win. You win.
That's a win. You were off by what, like 50 something?
Yep. You were off by a lot less. You were off by
like
$12.17. I was off by $55.42.
That was definitely not by accurately guessing the price of each individually. I'm just like, yeah, it's probably something like this. Sometimes I get lucky. What's the breakdown, though? I'm curious.
So the breakdown is that Ninja Gaiden Dragon Sword for the Nintendo DS Complete in Box is $16.74.
Yeah, okay. I think I was half expecting that, because I think that's how it resolved before, because I got fooled by the mention of the stylus, because I know the base game was worth like nothing.
Yeah,
because I got it. It was one of the games I got for nothing when I bought a DS, because I bought a DS late.
Yep,
it was such a great idea to wait on the DS too.
Oh yeah, because I
got so many great games for cheap because I waited a couple of years. And there was a lot of good games out that you could get for nothing.
The next game is Mystical Ninja, starring Goemon for the Game Boy, complete in box. This one is the high runner. This is $421.87. Third game is Ninja Boy for the Game Boy, complete in box, $166.09. And the last game, Azuna Legend of the Unemployed Ninja for the Nintendo DS, complete in box, $83.13. This is a fairly high dollar DS game.
Yeah. Yeah, so if I were guessing these individually, I would have been very wrong. But I just kind of, I was like, one of these is probably going to be really expensive. I just don't know which one.
And then that puts us.
So it was Gomon was the pricey one?
Yes, Gomon was the pricey one.
Gomon Complete. How much is that loose?
I think it was like.
And that whole series has gotten expensive, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was still close to $100.
Games, like, not even remotely affordable. I think even the Super Nintendo games gotten.
Yeah, I know that it was. I think it was close to $100.
Okay, Super Nintendo games not crazy. I mean, cartridges I always buy loose. So Super Nintendo's $53.
Oh, yeah, $52 for the Game Boy.
Not insane. I remember playing that on Wii on the Virtual Console. It's good times.
If you buy the Japanese ones, they're a lot cheaper.
Yeah, you can also buy the other 4 Super Nintendo games if you buy the Japanese ones.
Yeah,
and they are awesome.
Oh,
the first game doesn't even have Gomon Impact.
I'm just looking. So
Gomon's giant mecha shaped like himself.
So Goemon's Great Adventure for the N64 is like $109 loose American. If you buy the Japanese version, it's $27.
Yeah.
Same way with the Mystical Ninja for N64 is like $70, and if you buy it in Japan, it's $12.
Yep.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely a price cut.
Well, they met demand in Japan.
Yeah. Man,
people in the USA just didn't even know what it was, so they didn't buy it.
This is true. But, yeah. Nope, you took the win, and that also puts you up a game.
Yeah, we were tied, right?
We were, yeah. So now it's 6-5.
Oh, man. See what happens when we don't have a guest? I win.
That's right. We're going to have to knock this off.
Somehow. All right. Do we have a trivia card?
Yes.
I guess I have to. Well,
you're solo.
Coming off the win here, I have to get the trivia card.
That's right.
You can't answer it for me. You're reading it.
And right off the bat, I don't know if you're going to get this or not. The video game Grand Theft Auto 5 is set in which fictional city?
Always with the Grand Theft Auto. Shoot. Okay. I know names of Grand Theft Auto cities. Is it Vice City?
No.
That's what, Grand Theft Auto 3?
Well, that game was called Vice City.
San Andreas?
Nope. Also a name of a game.
Is that Grand Theft Auto 4? Am I getting closer?
No, that's still 3, essentially.
Oh, gosh.
Well, you had 3, right. And then you had Vice City and San Andreas were different games, but they were based off of the same engine as 3.
I see. They're like the Armored Core Silent Line of Grand Theft Auto.
They are.
Because that's the comparison everyone's making in their heads.
Sure.
Shoot, 5?
Yep, the newest one.
I haven't paid attention to this series. I learned that I didn't care.
The newest one that's like almost 12 years old, I think.
Yeah.
Or something like that, 10 years old.
Yeah. I don't know then.
Los Santos.
Oh, that doesn't even sound familiar to me.
Yeah.
It just sounds like a generic Southern California city.
That's probably what it is.
Probably what it's meant to be.
Next question is, what is the name of the new game it was new, in the Assassin's Creed series that was released in 2020?
In 2020? Okay. There's the one that's in Greece, and this is so bad.
This is not your
There's
strong
the one
suit.
that's in Greece, that's Odyssey. There's the one that's in Norway, which I want to say Ragnarok, but the one with the Vikings. 2020. That's Odyssey, right?
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
It's actually Odyssey was 2017.
2017. That's right, because that's when Mario Odyssey came out.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the only reason why I remember that. This game is Valhalla. This is the Viking one.
Valhalla. Okay.
Yeah. Ragnarok is God of War.
All the Vikings, man.
It's too many Vikings. Yeah, no, that's...
It's probably because I just made that Plock meme with God of War Ragnarok.
It's funny because I remember going to pick up my copy of Mario Odyssey on like release day, release night at Best Buy, and like nobody was there to like. It was the same launch party for Odyssey, and nobody was there to pick up the Assassin's Creed game. Everybody was picking up Mario Odyssey.
That's the correct choice, man.
Well, I will say, out of all of the somewhat modern Assassin's Creed games, that was the only one that I actually played like a good chunk of. I probably put 60 hours in that game. It's pretty fun for a sandbox.
This was a big deal for Stadia, wasn't it? It was like a Stadia launch title.
Yeah. I believe I think it was only in, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was in stateside, or it might have been only Japan, but I believe it also came to the Switch as a streaming game, if I remember right.
Yeah, I don't know, these staple modern game series have just completely been ignored by me, if you can't tell.
Yeah,
they all blur together. I'm like, I know this is a big thing, but I've just been ignoring it for so long that even the titles just blur together.
Yeah, the thing with Assassin's Creed though, like, I don't play those games thinking that I'm gonna ever like complete them. I just play them to have fun, and then whenever I'm done having fun, I just turn them off and I don't play anymore.
Yeah, I played Brotherhood, I think it was, on my brother's PS3, and it was fun. I just not enough that I could play the game every year.
Yeah, like I don't feel
like they were
have
milking it hard for a bit. It slowed down.
Yeah, I think they were starting to put a little bit more time into them, because I know that what was the name of the one before Odyssey, the Origins, which was like the Egyptian one, I think I want to say it came out in 2015, maybe 2016, so there might have only been like a year development time for Odyssey. But between Odyssey and Valhalla was a 3-year period, and then I think they're actually getting ready to release the next one this year. So I think they've went from a year to year and a half dev cycle to like 3 years, which is better.
Yeah. I mean, that can kill a franchise, when you run it into the ground by trying to release it constantly. It happened to Mega Man back in the day. Hard to believe
the only
now.
Game that survives that is Pokemon.
Yeah. I mean, it was bad. And actually, Battle Network 4, to go back there, was kind of like the height of that. It's when I dropped off the series initially. And, this was, I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but there was, a 4-year span where literally, 20-something Mega Man games released. Between especially if you count the Battle Network multi-versions alongside it. Between the 6 Battle Network games, the 4 Mega Man Zero games, the last 2 Mega Man X games, Command Mission, which was an X spinoff, and everything else.
Was that the same time period as the Wii getting the regular numbered Mega Man games?
No. This was all. This was all on the PS2, GameCube, and Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
I mean, just the Game Boy Advance alone. If you count the Battle Network version separately, saw the release of 17 Mega Man games.
Yeah, I think Bomberman was trying to do that too, and they got phased out short, more quick than Mega Man did. Because they had Bomberman Max and then Max 2, and those both had red and blue versions, and then They're like, oh, okay, no more Bomberman. We're good.
But we'll take a short break, and then we'll talk about games that have the exact opposite problem, not releasing at all. Welcome back. It's time for part 2. Picking up our discussion last time, we were joined by Seth. This time it's just the two of us, but we also have some submissions from our community over on the Discord. Just to touch up on a couple more games we didn't get a chance to mention before that were canceled. And one of these that came to mind for me immediately that I'm not sure why I forgot about last time is Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Pinball for the Nintendo DS. There were a bunch of details on this that were leaked a couple of years ago. And it sounds real interesting. It actually does seem like a pretty big step up from Pokemon Pinball Ruby and Sapphire. I don't know if you've played that. But this sounds very interesting because there were actually supposed to be 3 tables representing basically a travel or countryside, a city, and a gym. And so the travel table was supposed to represent time going between cities, and you would progress along the route. Different Pokemon would pop up, including Diglett bumpers and a Pikachu in a tree, this says. And after stunning a Pokemon by hitting it with the ball, the player would use the touchscreen to tap on the screen and catch it. When the timer ran out, they would move to the city. So that's kind of pretty similar to the way it works in the Game Boy Advance game, the Ruby Sapphire one. Like, you have a table, you do different things, and a Pokemon shows up, and you hit it with the ball to catch it. The city plays more like a traditional pinball table with ramps, loops, and bumpers. There's not much more said about it. But the gym is the interesting one. Because it was a double-ended table with Pokemon between your flippers. So you would have your Pokemon kind of standing in between the flippers on your end, and the gym leaders would be on the other end. And you would have ramps that you could go up that would charge your Pokemon's power, and then it would attack the gym leader's Pokemon by getting the ball to some specific spot. It was also planned to include rumble support and some kind of special evolution system. But that seemed interesting to me because in the other Pokemon pinball games, you can catch Pokemon, but you can't battle them. So that was kind of like the element of Pokemon that's missing. And so it would have been interesting to see how that would work. I don't know. Hopefully there would be more to what Pokemon you're using than just,
it being
cosmetic. Yeah. Like, I don't know if type advantage would have played a factor, or you could level up your Pokemon by battling more, and then that would make the battles easier. But that sounds interesting to me.
It's also
even just the double-ended pinball table thing.
Yeah,
versus pinball. Odama has a stage like that, actually.
It's also kind of interesting that they planned on bringing back the Rumble. Like, the original Pokemon Pinball for the Game Boy Color had Rumble, but the DS game, the Ruby and Sapphire, did not have Rumble. It was just a standard DS cart. So with the, I don't know if you've played Metroid Pinball, but it comes with a Game Boy Advance cartridge that is a Rumble pack that you insert into the bottom of the DS. And then when you play Metroid Pinball, it serves as a Rumble pack.
Yeah, and this actually was the same team that made Metroid Pinball as well. I mean, they made the other Pokemon Pinball games too, but Fuse. It actually began development right after Metroid Prime Pinball released.
Something I've always wondered. I have it. I just haven't ever tried it. But I wonder if that Rumble pack has any other game support.
I don't know.
It's something I should look up at some point because I have I have Metroid Pinball and I have the Rumble Pack with it, so it would be interesting if you could use it for other games. All right.
So also on this list, I have Death and Destruction. I feel like we talked about this last time, but I couldn't remember. Does this sound familiar to you at all? Developer Origin Systems, the people who made
Yes.
Ultima and Wing Commander.
Yep.
Okay,
We talked
about that. Okay.
Yep.
I just found this interesting because it sounds kind of wholly unique, and that's kind of what I was looking for. There's plenty of canceled sequels that people would say they'd want to get, but particularly when that series eventually got a sequel, you can kind of assume it would have been a little bit like that. Got some other picks on here. Meowth's Party. I couldn't find a lot of info on this, but it was evidently not just a tech demo and was intended to be a full game. It was showcased when the GameCube was revealed. But there was going to be this game starring Meowth. Called Meowth's Party.
Did they have any footage of it?
There was I saw screenshots.
This is one I'm not familiar with.
It just looked like Meowth to me.
Man, I could think of all kinds of cool game mechanics that you could have with Meowth, but like to me, I think of Meowth as like almost like a Wario type character.
There is footage. It looks like
anything that you could like depict what kind of game it would have been based on that.
No, it's Meowth playing a piano.
Oh, that's awesome.
Actually, more like a big music box and singing in Japanese.
Man, looking at the next one on the list, I totally forgot about this game, but Star Wars 1313.
Yeah, it's one I don't know about, but it should, like, if you just Google canceled games, people were really looking forward to this one.
Yes. This was to me, the kind of concepts that were being shown for this game, I think kind of influenced what we got with the latest Star Wars series. It was definitely more of a lightsaber combat based game. It wasn't like the it's not like Rogue Squadron, not like Star Wars games that I think of whenever I think of Star Wars games. It was definitely in development for quite a while. This would have been a PS4, Xbox One game. So really, it doesn't seem like but I guess 10 years ago is whenever it was announced.
Yeah.
And then ended development.
Yeah, you could definitely, but this wasn't the people who wound up making Fallen Order, is it?
No, it's a different development studio. So this is when LucasArts was still intact.
Right. That's probably why it was canceled.
I imagine. The director says here Dominic Robiliard. That's a weird last name. I remember seeing stuff about this game constantly. Like, it was being very heavily advertised, and like there was lots of hype behind it. So I think that was a big reason why everybody was pretty upset whenever this one was finally let go. Yeah, I guess in 2014 is whenever they abandoned it. Oh, actually, it says it still hasn't been officially canceled. It's
So
just,
for all we know, it's still in development, but
yeah, it
probably
says
not.
it's been postponed. And then I guess in 2022 there was more gameplay that leaked, showcasing a small amount of Boba Fett gameplay. Yeah, it's just, it stinks whenever you get so far into them and then they fall apart, or something.
Yeah,
In
I
this
mean
case, the
it's like a
studio
waste
falls
of
apart.
effort.
Let's see. Next, Super Mario RPG 2. This, we would assume, became Paper Mario, I guess.
Well, I think there's even more or less official confirmation of that. Paper Mario began development as a sequel to Super Mario RPG.
Yeah, it makes
And
me
ultimately,
wonder.
I'm more thankful for Paper Mario at the end of the day. It would have been interesting to see, particularly if Square stayed involved, what they would have done. Um, but I just want classic Paper Mario back, like making new games, not just remakes.
Yeah,
We'll see. It would have been really weird to have three concurrent Mario RPGs with Mario, Luigi, Paper Mario, and a Super Mario RPG series instead of just that turning into Paper Mario.
yeah, that would have been different. But I mean, speaking of Paper Mario, like, I feel like they're kind of making their way back to the original. They're getting closer with every one that they've put out here lately.
Yeah,
Like,
but at the same time, it feels like they tried to reinvent the wheel by replacing it with a square, namely Sticker Star. And by
yeah,
now, we've like gotten to an octagon when you could have just kept a wheel.
it's true. Yeah, we're definitely taking the long way back. But Origami King was definitely a improvement over previous entries in the series. Sticker
Yeah.
Star and Color Splash were just brutal, like, to play through. They were not as fun, and they just lack the story beats. Like Origami King was, I actually enjoyed it just as much as I did like the original Paper Mario for the most part. Other than
Still not as good as OG.
the battle mechanics could have been better, but like,
I actually kind of enjoyed the battle system on the whole, but the issue is the game actually incentivizes not battling whenever you can.
yes. But I mean, overall, it's they're both or that game is definitely better than both Sticker Star and Color Splash by far. And I will definitely welcome Thousand Year Door coming to the Switch. I'll replay that any day.
Nah, remakes. You know how I feel about remakes.
Yeah, but this is a
We
good one.
do, yeah, we do have Time Splitters 4 on here. That's just kind of says it all. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on sequels, but I'll mention them in passing here. Obviously, a sequel is pretty easy to fill in what it would be like. Um, but yeah, not as much to say about them than some of these other ones. But some we also don't have a lot of info on. Another one that comes up a lot that I don't remember being aware of at all because, as we've established, I know nothing about certain very popular game series. Um, is a game called Agent that was in development by Rockstar, and pretty much those two things tell you what you need to know. It was a Rockstar game that was set with more of a secret agent type theme. So a lot of people's brains just go wild with that. The thought of Rockstar making something that
Isn't
includes
Grand Theft Auto?
everything cool about GoldenEye, but in a more modern Rockstar Games style.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing. I remember hearing about this one quite a bit, but I don't remember seeing any of the stuff. This was also during a time where I was kind of dormant in my gaming uh, lifestyle, I guess, per se.
Mm-hmm.
2007 is whenever this game was announced or teased, I guess. So yeah, in 2007, I wasn't playing very many games. If I was playing stuff on my PC. So this would have totally been out of my vision.
I was trying to find a Wii still, probably.
Yeah, that's sounds like, but definitely, it would have been cool. Rockstar definitely does some things that would suit a secret agent type game very well, as long as it doesn't have the same, or as long as it wasn't planned to have the same style or even controls as Grand Theft Auto. I would have been fine.
Mm-hmm. So kind of similarly speaking, in terms of sequels that were canned and in series that I don't have a whole lot of history with, we have Fable Legends and Silent Hills. Silent Hills, I know, was kind of a big deal because that was canceled because of everything that was happening with the developer at the time. So,
didn't they try to bring back Silent Hills, or is this the what am I thinking of what we're talking about here?
I couldn't explain much about Silent Hill to you.
Yeah, this is the Kojima.
Is that the one they're trying to bring back?
Well, this is the one that they were playing. It was playing for PS4, and they put out the demo. It was PT.
Okay, yeah, Silent Hill F.
Yes,
which it may just be Silent Hills, but it does have a different name. So that's one where, you know, if it comes out and if the development team is candid about it, we might learn that they just had to retool some things and
this is the
finish it under a different name.
This is the when they announced the game, it was announced via a kind of a demo put out called PT, and this is like really famous for being one of those things that got put up there and then pulled down. But if you had it downloaded, it's still on your console. It's like there's still people like hoarding these consoles that have PT still downloaded on them today. But this was a kind of a joint directed game that Kojima and Guillermo del Toro was working on together.
That's right.
Yep.
That's
and
right.
This was also going to have Norman Reedus in it, which is hilarious. Because then he would go on to be in Death Stranding.
Yep.
So I guess like this could have potentially, excuse me. My throat just got really dry. This could have potentially turned into Death Stranding. Like ideas from this game may have became part of Death Stranding later. Who knows? Because Death Stranding is definitely a unique game in its own rights. Could have easily came from a Silent Hill project.
So, a game we spoke about briefly last time, but I just want to let sink in, is Kid Kirby. This was a Super Nintendo game. Not a lot of info on it, but it was for the Super Nintendo game. It was supposed to feature Kirby, as you might guess from the title. And it supported the SNES mouse. And there is like a image out there of it. So it was like 3D graphics too, which is kind of impressive. You know, I don't know. There's nothing in motion, so I don't know if it was going to run at, Stunt Race FX frame rates.
Yeah.
It was a late game, and that's part of why it was canceled, because it just kind of wasn't making the deadline. Super Nintendo was flagging off. But I'm just thinking, like, What kind of Kirby game uses a mouse? Is this like a Kirby point-and-click adventure?
Or an auto-scrolling game where like you click Kirby to like make him float?
Like a Mario and Wario kind of deal?
Yeah, or something like that where it's kind of little gameplay and you're just using the mouse to manipulate things. I'm not sure.
It just makes me wonder, you know?
Just the style of this game just makes me want to play it, though. Or I'd wish that they had, even if it didn't have to be a Kirby game, like if they would have just put this out in any way, it would have been nice. Because just the way it looks, like it's amazing.
Yeah, it kind of has that.
It's like Clay Fighter.
Clay look, yeah. Reminds me of not Canvas Curse, Rainbow Curse, the sequel. Kind of did the clay look for Kirby. And this is way earlier. DDD looks really weird. He's like skinny or something.
Yeah, there's something wrong with him.
It's because his head is so much bigger than the rest of him. It looks wild, dude.
Oh man, Kid Kirby. What we could have had.
Okay, yeah, so there's a level layout here, and it's like a big maze. So yeah, that's interesting.
I'll let you hit up the next one too, since you put it on there.
All right, this is one I was kind of excited to mention. I just learned about this. So it's titled X Women, which initially I didn't think much of. But this is, in fact, the third X-Men game for the Sega Genesis, following X-Men 2 The Clone Wars. So developed by the same team, and it was featuring a team of playable characters consisting of Storm, Jean Grey, and Rogue. That's why it's called X-Women. Supposedly, the conceit of the storyline is there is this virus, the Sinister virus, I have to assume Mr. Sinister made it, that infects all the men. And that's why only the X-Women are left. I do think the name X-Women is not a good name.
No.
You need to be clear with people that this is X-Men 3. You should have called it X-Men 3. I mean, obviously it wasn't released, so they didn't really call it anything. I mean, it's cool that the team's all women, but look, this is just how it works. In the 90s, everybody understood this, okay? There have always been women on the X-Men team, and the women are X-Men too. That's just how it works. You don't question it.
That's just the name of the
You don't
group.
question it. Marvel Girl was there on issue 1, and it was called X-Men. But interesting thing about that team lineup is all three of those characters can fly. And so that was actually supposed to be something that was supported in the game. So I do think that's interesting that they picked three characters. I mean, these are kind of like three of the most popular female X-Men characters. I mean, Shadowcat's not there, but it is interesting all three of them can fly. And so they would have been able, presumably, to design levels around the ability to fly, which would have been pretty cool as a counterpart to the other games, where you did have stuff like you had Nightcrawler and he could go through walls, but sometimes it felt like you were getting away with too much.
Yeah.
So that is interesting, I think, from a level design standpoint of like, no, flight is a universal ability, no matter which character you play as. But it was the last project by the developer Clockwork Tortoise that was disbanded later due to internal issues. So again, I think those are like the ones where you feel the loss more, where you know that the cancellation was due to something other than the game just not really working the way they wanted it to, right? When you know it was because like the publisher went broke or there was just some rift in the team or whatever.
Yeah. Boy, that's a name, right? Clockwork
Tortoise. So I believe their staff went on to form some other group, or some of their staff.
I was trying to find them, but on Wikipedia it just redirects you to a Batman game, which is kind of weird. I guess they were the developer for the Sega CD and Sega Genesis version of The Adventures of Batman and Robin.
I guess so.
Whereas Konami was the developer of the Super Nintendo version. Surely that's not the only game they did.
No, they did the X-Men games.
They did all of them?
I think so.
The ones...
Unless I'm getting...
For Genesis?
For Genesis, yeah. And it's weird that the Wikipedia does redirect to Adventures of Batman and Robin.
That's why I'm trying to see if I can... what was the name of the first? It was just X-Men, wasn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, here we go. This was developed by Western Technologies.
Western Technology, okay. Interesting.
I wonder if they...
Oh, yeah, okay. So this was planned... Yeah, Clockwork Tortoise was separate. So a follow-up was planned due to the acclaim and sales of previous X-Men titles, as well as the positive reception Clockwork Tortoise garnered for their adaptations based on Batman.
So I guess they just did the Batman.
But to them being contracted... I guess this is just how Sega did business at the time. Like, they kind of, like, worked with different developers for...
That's just kind of weird.
Yeah, so the co-producer also worked on X-Men Games Master's Legacy. So yeah, the staff was kind of pulled for it, I guess.
The second game was also developed by a different company, Head Games, which is Activision, I guess, or was at the time. It's probably one of the companies that got pulled into it. Trying to see if it has a list, because I know that over time they absorbed a lot of companies. It's kind of another one of those crazy things where they've been around for a long time, and just the way these publishing and developing companies, they remind me of like they remind me of the game. What is the name of that game? My mind just went blank. Evo, The Search of Eden, where like you start out as like a little fish-like guy and you eat smaller ones and you get bigger, and then something will eventually eat you.
Evo, Search for Eden.
Yeah. It's like that same thing. You just start buying up, and start adding all these companies in, and then you become big enough and then someone purchases you.
Yep. That's how it goes sometimes.
Oh man, yeah, there's so many on here. And then they merged with several places, including Blizzard. Like it's crazy. All right, what's the next game? We get some HAL games here. Do we know anything about these?
A pair of HAL games. There is a little bit of footage of each of these. I was most intrigued actually by Battleland. They're both for the Game Boy Advance, and they were in development around the same time. Battleland is a GBA strategy RPG of some sorts. I see a lot of descriptions around online floating around that compare it to Fire Emblem, but from the footage, it looks to me more. It looks real time. It doesn't look turn based. So I couldn't get a clear picture of how the game actually played because it looked like you were controlling one character directly, but it is consistently described as a strategy game. So it's interesting. It definitely looked like it would fill a unique spot compared to other strategy games. There are a lot of strategy games on the Game Boy Advance, actually.
Yeah.
But I would always be game for more, honestly.
This looks very different.
Yeah, it would have been different. And HAL Labs does some great stuff. It would have been interesting to see them have more of their own unique IP instead of working with Kirby so much.
What about Luna Blaze? The other HAL
Luna
game.
Blaze was also HAL, and it was kind of their version of Pokemon. But the interesting, so it was an RPG. You raised monsters and formed a team with them. The interesting thing being that these battles were not one monster against one monster; they were team against team. It's unclear how exactly that worked. Presumably, since it was an RPG, it was just like, battling a group of enemies in a Final Fantasy game. But this is before Pokemon did double, triple battles, really. They would do that on the Game Boy Advance. It was introduced in Ruby Sapphire, but it does seem interesting. It is still surprising to me. It's definitely been attempted, but it's surprising to me nobody else has really come close to cracking the Pokemon formula. I feel like it shouldn't be that hard.
There's definitely been several attempts here of late.
Yeah. Especially lately. There's renewed interest in it, I think.
Yeah, there's
particularly as people get upset with Pokemon sequels, but
flat
none
out
of it seems to stick
anymore.
None of it really seems to stick.
Let's see. We have Transformers for the Super Nintendo. This was going to be an Argonaut game.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about it. Some of these are on there. I mean, you can tell what the licensed games, Transformers, there was supposed to be a Transformers game for the Super Nintendo, and I'm sure that would have sold pretty well just on that fact alone. I was just looking at, different lists of games that have been canceled. Also for the Super Nintendo, there was a game based on The Shadow, which was supposed to be a beat-em-up, from what I recall. Which definitely sounds like something I would be interested in. But there are a lot of beat-em-ups. Interesting to think what it might have done to stand out. Additionally, under the Super Nintendo ones, I listed Super Shantae. Obviously, it probably would have been a lot like the Game Boy Color game.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to think what the game would have been like there.
Yeah, that would have been... Just imagine the color palette they would have had to work with first the Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
Probably looks very good. I mean, it always felt like it should have been a console game anyway.
Mm-hmm.
See, let's see, 64 Wars, man. I really wish we would have got some of the in-between entries in the Wars series.
Yeah, it is interesting to think about because this is before Advance Wars, right? So this is because the Advance Wars kind of rebooted things, and it reestablished some of the basic rules for how things worked as well. I haven't played much of the Game Boy Wars games, but just the way counterattacks work is a bit different in that case. So. But it would have been interesting to see on the N64, right? Because, you would have... Really, the whole series might have gone in a different direction, particularly if this released and did well. If this was the first, North American release or European release in the series. That could have very much changed the tone for any entries on the Game Boy Advance or even made them decide It doesn't need to go to the Game Boy Advance. It needs to be a console game. I couldn't find a whole lot of info on it, but it is one of those that makes you think, like, what if they went through and committed to this?
Apparently, there were a couple of other canceled Wars games. There was a game called Night Wars. It was known internally as Castle Wars. It was intended to be a medieval spin-off of Battalion Wars. But Battalion Wars 2 had such poor sales that they never completed the game.
Ah, man. I do like Battalion Wars. I don't know that it was really what I wanted as Advance Wars' successor in any way, though.
No, it's definitely a lot different. There's there was just a bunch of Game Boy Wars games. I really would like to go and try to play some of those. And it's funny too because you have the Orange Star in the Advance Wars, and I guess the Game Boy Wars was Red Star and White Moon.
Well, supposedly they changed it because all of us red-blooded, patriotic Americans would be very offended by playing as the Red Star. We'd think we were the commies.
Yeah. Well, they could have just flopped it and made the White Moon the friendlies and made the Red Star the bad guys. And I guess there was also a Satellaview version on the Super Famicom.
Yeah. Satellaview. That's what we need. We need a Satellaview NSO app.
We do.
Get all that cool stuff.
I think slowly but surely, like some of the stuff that was on the Satellaview has made it. Like there's been some stuff that's been released on NSO. I think majorly on the Japanese version of the app, but I think there are some things that have made it. We just need more. There was lots of cool stuff happening on the Satellaview for whatever reason. And then Jack and Beans.
Jack and Beans
became Pokemon Snap.
Yeah, which was the right call, I think. I just find it interesting that this game, because the camera mechanic came first. This is actually something Iwata talks about in his book, I believe. I guess it was a collection of blog posts. Iwata Asks, which is a collection of, I think, articles he wrote or something. They're compiled from somewhere else. And he talks about how this game began development. He was pretty involved, and I guess for some reason it had it focused on Jack and the Beanstalk, which is the weirdest part to me, because I think, and maybe they intended to move it elsewhere before they're like, you know what, Pokemon, that's what people want to actually take pictures of. Because I guess it makes sense if you think like, okay, you want like taking photos and exploration, and you just go with like sort of a public domain fairy tales theme.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
I think it was definitely a stroke of genius to be like, no, people want to take pictures of Pokemon doing Pokemon things. But I am just very curious, like what that finished game would be like. Like that, and just the name Jack and Beans. I have to make a comment about dreams here and how they taste like beans. So,
that's right.
There you go. Anybody ever tell you dreams taste like beans? There were a lot of 64 disk drive games as well that were canceled. One that stood out to me was something called Jungle Emperor Leo, which was supposed to be based on the anime Kimba the White Lion, also known as the thing Lion King ripped off.
The thing that Lion King ripped off.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't really know much about this game in particular. I do know that the 64 DD was, like you said, it was very short-lived and did have a lot of games in development for it, which either went to be uh, other N64 games, like with things cut out of them or just flat out canceled. So there's probably a huge list of those games we don't have on here. The next one, Dead Phoenix. This was I think this was planned to be the last part of the Capcom 5, if I remember right.
Yes.
It just never.
And that's pretty
saw
much the big
fruition.
story behind it. So the Capcom promised 5 GameCube games at once, and it one of these was Dead Phoenix. It has some good company. The other 4 being PN03, Beautiful Joe, Resident Evil 4, and Killer 7.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you hit on at least 4 out of those 5, you're doing all right, I guess.
Yeah.
I imagine this
but
one probably had the least amount of success being developed, so they just dropped it.
Yeah, it was a shoot 'em up, and this is definitely entering in an era where shoot 'em ups had fallen out of fashion for quite a while. That said, this is also around the time we got Ikaruga, which is the best shoot 'em up ever.
Well, that's what I was going to say. After that game came out, they were probably like, okay, we don't need to put one out.
That's what happened. That's until you hear otherwise. They played Ikaruga and they're like, dang, there's no point in making another shoot 'em up now.
Well, yeah. Capcom's like, dang you, treasure. Why you got to do this to me? And then, let's see, with the Wii, we had a Untitled Kid Icarus game. This would have been really cool, I think. This is one... This also kind of makes me wonder if any of this made it to Uprising.
So what I had seen claimed that this was kind of moving Kid Icarus towards a more gritty redesign. I don't know where that comes from because I haven't seen the design. I don't think I wasn't able to find it. Yeah, it's definitely one of those that makes you wonder, like, what would Uprising have been like if this released instead? Because I think this might have even been before the redesign of Pit for Smash Bros. Brawl.
Yeah.
Which established his modern design that they would use for Uprising. So
I mean, I could really see Kid Icarus being a game kind of like the classic Prince of Persia style games.
Mm-hmm.
But you just play as Pit instead.
Yeah, and it's worth noting too, like if you wanted to carry forward the series based on the 2 games prior into the modern era, it was originally a platformer,
Yeah.
It was closer to something like Mega Man than anything like, you play Uprising and it probably plays more like Star Fox. Probably the closest analog to Kid Icarus Uprising is probably Star Fox Assault, with the land missions included.
Yep.
Of course, Uprising works a little differently with the ground combat, emphasizing dodges a lot more. But that's probably the closest thing. It would have been interesting what, a different team would have thought of, if you give them Kid Icarus, a very old game, and say, go crazy, redesign this for a modern era, particularly on the Wii. Because I would still expect maybe some shooter type direction. Like maybe they would have thought something more like Metroid Prime,
Yeah. I mean, or it could have had the sword, like the Wii was moving towards the 1-to-1 motion, so like it could have had more sword combat even, maybe.
Or you could be using motion controls for tilting to glide.
Yeah.
Another possibility.
We'll never know because we didn't get it.
It doesn't even have a title, so there's not a lot of detail there. We talked about Project Giant Robot last time. It sort of did release in a form as a Labo game.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know if that's confirmed. But
it definitely seems like it, though.
A lot of people were just unimpressed with it, but I do wonder because it was, kind of hyped up just by because this was Miyamoto was like all about this, right? He was like, yeah, this is what I'm working on, Project Giant Robot.
Yeah,
And,
this is like his big push that didn't happen.
It kind of went nowhere.
Boy, Dreamcast. There's probably a lot longer.
We get to the Sega section. Yeah, I just listed some of the most notable. Glover 2, obviously, what everybody was missing.
Yeah, I never was a big Glover fan, even on the N64. An Echo 2. I thought we already had an Echo 2. So was this a port, or was it?
Yeah, I don't... Because Echo 2 is the Tides of Time, right?
That's what I was thinking.
Sentinels... Or did I type that wrong? Is it actually Echoes 3?
Maybe it is. It might be a typo.
But that's what everybody... Yeah, Echo 2. Echo 2, Sentinels of the Universe. Unreleased Dreamcast game.
So was... I wonder if Tides of Destiny was just the Echo. Like, I wonder if they didn't
Unless
put
they
it
just
to...
reboot, yeah. I guess so. But then it's like Kingdom Hearts, man. Just don't think about it.
Tides of
The
Time.
numbered sequels only happen so often.
So yeah, that's what it is. Tides of Time was just another Echo game. It didn't have a number with it associated.
Don't start adding 2 later, okay? Just don't. We don't need that.
Yeah, I mean it's also like an infinite.
It's one thing if you have
underwater
spin-offs.
Donkey Kong Country game.
Yeah, I can't say I'm particularly fond of Echo the Dolphin. I kind of appreciate it for what it is. I don't know much about the Dreamcast game because this is, again, would have been pretty much the only one that kind of carried it forward into that era. Because Echo's a franchise that pretty much died. So,
well, yeah, it
didn't even live on the Xbox or anything. So,
well, and it also went from Genesis to Dreamcast. There was no Sega CD, no Saturn.
Yeah,
none of that stuff. So there's no telling what this game was planned to look like. This could have tried to be a 3D entry, for the series.
Well, it is. I mean, there's some footage out there of it.
Oh, I didn't even see any of the...
There's a lot of screenshots at the very least. I mean, it was 3D for sure. Yeah, there's gameplay footage. I think somebody even leaked the prototype. Nice. True, this is an era where underwater movement especially is a big, you couldn't always rely on cameras to work well. And a game where you can move in any direction by swimming makes that even harder. But if they could pull it off, it would be all the more impressive.
I mean, honestly, though, in that era, a lot of times, like if Echo couldn't leave the water, then essentially it's like a flying game.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about it as much. But yeah, that's definitely weird. I guess we can move to Saturn, which you have a whole bunch of games on here.
Yeah, I did a lot of digging for Saturn.
Air Knights, which I assume
the main issue is when you look for this stuff, you look for canceled games, you get a list of a bunch of ports, which I think just aren't terribly interesting because we know what the game would have been like more or less. How it might have played on a different system does raise some questions, but
yeah,
not too interesting from a design perspective anyway.
Obviously, we have the canceled Castlevania game.
Yep. This actually may have wound up turning into Symphony of the Night. It's a little bit unclear, but it got a title. A couple sprites were shown in a magazine. It was called The Bloodletting, Castlevania The Bloodletting. But it definitely was intended to star, what's his name? I'm blanking on it. Richter, returning from Dracula X and Rondo of Blood, which probably plays into the idea that it was going to be, it basically was the first run at Symphony of the Night. Where, of course, ultimately you play as Alucard and you run into Richter. You can unlock Richter in Symphony of the Night, but yeah.
And then
third Vector Man game.
3. Good night. Another Vector Man game. I have 1 and 2 for Genesis.
So the interesting thing about Vector Man 3 is there was the former employees of Blue Sky that made Vector Man pitched a new 3D Vector Man for PlayStation 2, actually. But Sega kind of locked down the rights to it, and they'd already started development on a third Vector Man game for the Saturn with a different developer, Pseudo Interactive. And then both ideas just got canned eventually. So the way it reads, it seems like Sega basically kept this sequel from happening so that they could make their own, but they never did it. Never followed through.
Nice. Yeah. Sega being a little greedy, probably.
It's possible. Also, Virtua Hamster. I don't know why.
Nintendo
just the
dogs.
knowledge that there was a Virtua Hamster just fills me with joy.
It's going to be a 32X game.
Yeah, it started as a 32X game. They moved it to Saturn, and then they just canceled it. They just gave up. So,
Nice.
Yeah, really the strongest argument that we do not, in fact, live in the best of all possible timelines is that we don't have Virtua Hamster. That's what it comes down to.
Maybe this went on to be Hamtaro.
Or Duel and Fireman for the 3DO. I have watched footage from Duel and Fireman for the 3DO, and I don't think I can explain it any better by doing that. Just it's an FMV game for the 3DO, and it's yeah. I don't even know what to say. It's insane.
I think is that our last one? I think that's it.
I think so. This is the rest of the list. We do have our community submissions.
Yeah, let's move.
And most of these weren't on my list. So we'll just go right into it. We put out the call, and you guys answered on the community couch with some of the games that you remembered getting canceled that you were looking forward to and you wish you could play today. First up, we have Lunchbox. He mentions Metallica the game. He says, being a huge Metallica fan, I was immediately interested in a Metallica-themed vehicular combat game. It was going to be called Damage Inc., and some mechanics sounded pretty dang cool, like being able to exit your vehicle and take any other on the map. It did get a cinematic trailer, and some gameplay was released later. Maybe it could have reinvigorated the genre. It's very interesting. There's a lot of canceled, supposed twisted metal killers out there.
Yeah. Or in this case, this sounds like it could have been a run with Grand Theft Auto almost.
Yeah.
Where you can exit your vehicle and just take anyone you want on the map.
The Lunchbox also...
Metallica I would have played.
Yeah. Lunchbox also mentions another one that he remembered later that was advertised in the DVD release for Escape from New York, which was, I think, just called Snake Plissken's Escape. For some reason, I didn't type that in the notes. I didn't type the title. Yeah, Snake Plissken's Escape, developed by Namco. And with some involvement from the director of the movie, Escape from New York, as well.
Huh.
So there you go. I just have to wonder, is that not just Metal Gear Solid?
Snake Plissken in a box.
Yep. I don't know if he even said what that was in development for.
Yeah,
He
I
links
don't
to a
know.
wiki article. I don't see anything indicating what it would have been for. Just Namco. Probably multiple platforms. I don't know.
Probably.
2003. So probably gonna wind up on the PS2 at some point.
Who is this all still Lunchbox?
The next one is This is actually still Lunchbox. Thrill Kill
Okay.
was another one he mentioned. You want to read that one?
Yeah. Thrill Kill, another game that would have been fun, was a canceled PlayStation game called Thrill Kill. It was going to be a fighting game. The first featured 4 characters on the screen at once with outlandish character designs. But it was canceled when EA bought Virgin Interactive, and EA thought it would be too violent. Which is kind of funny because games like Mortal Kombat exist.
Yeah, and
Kind
this
of
is
paved the
definitely
path
post
for
Mortal
that.
Kombat if it was
Oh, yeah.
PlayStation. If anything, I'm surprised they didn't see that as a selling point, but
Yeah, PlayStation was.
maybe they saw the backlash to Mortal Kombat as something they didn't want to be involved in.
I think even by the time PlayStation was around, that stuff was all over.
Yeah.
And PlayStation was kind of already using violence and adult themed games as like a selling point, like we're the grown up console, type stuff. So this I'm really shocked on this one, but then again, I guess it's EA and not PlayStation that made the call.
So he also mentions Joust 3D, which I missed. Being a huge classic gaming fan, I was excited to learn Midway was working on Joust 3D. Yep, it was canceled. Too bad, because it showed promise. I do struggle to think how Joust would work in 3D, though.
Yeah, I'm struggling to get that in my head too.
If you could pull it off, I'm sure it'd be awesome.
I wonder if there's any screenshots or anything.
I should have looked for some.
Oh, I think I remember seeing some of these.
Yeah. Okay. I see this.
I just don't know if that's Joust.
It doesn't.
Once it goes to 3D, I don't think it's Joust anymore.
Yeah.
Being that even real life Joust is 2D. in a sense.
Yeah, I feel like you've lost some of the essence of it,
Yeah. This reminds me of like just any other flying game.
So we have our last one firing off from it. We have Mike. Mike writes, aka Mike from Film Logic, mentions Echo 2. I'm pretty sure that's the same Echo 2. Baldur's Gate, Chikan the Forever Man, and Castlevania Resurrection for the Dreamcast. Seemed like my entry into the Castlevania series. I don't recall. I thought I read something about Castlevania Resurrection, but I might be mixing it up with the bloodletting.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've seen like box art for it.
Okay, so a 3D Castlevania, kind of like the like Castlevania 64 or Lament of Innocence, kind of. Okay, so there is quite a bit of info on it out there, because I guess there was a prototype that leaked. It's out there on the internet somewhere, probably in some shady place. Would have featured Sonia Belmont as well. Isn't that the protagonist from the Game Boy game?
I think so.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So while you were looking at that, I was looking at the Shakan, the Forever Man.
So is it Chikan, or is it chicken?
I don't. It's Chaka Khan.
Yeah, it could be. I don't.
So yeah, this game,
no, we'll never know.
The original game looks really good. It looks like a Ninja Gaiden type side-scrolling game, except for you're like this. You almost look like the Undertaker, like the wrestler. Like it's a very interesting.
Yeah. I recognize the guy because I've seen the Genesis game.
Another thing that he has listed on here is Baldur's Gate. As far as I know, that game released, so I don't know. I don't know what he's referring to.
Yeah, maybe not in the Dreamcast. Unless there was like a spin-off.
Oh. I didn't realize that he was that all these would have been Dreamcast games because he only mentions.
Yeah, I think he's talking specifically about the Dreamcast port.
Okay, I could see that game.
I mean, there's a lot of canceled ports, especially for those less than popular.
There were a lot of PC games at that time trying to migrate to the Dreamcast because it was a Windows operating system. So it's different that time period. That's our last community couch entry.
Yep. I think that does it for canceled games. This has been a really fun topic, and it was great to see the community get involved too. So, who knows? Maybe one of these games will be uncanceled one of those days. I mean, if Star Fox 2 can do it, then maybe there's hope. Or like we mentioned a lot on the last episode, a lot of those ideas carry over to later games too. So I'm just still holding out hope that Next Level can make a wrestling game.
That's right.
One of these days. They really seem like they wanted to. But until they do, this kind of closes out our discussion. So thank you for listening to the RetroLogic podcast. We are proudly part of the Nintendo Dads family of podcasts. If you like what you hear, you're also welcome to jump into our friendly and 100% non-toxic Discord community. And once again, you can find all of that stuff, all the links to all our shows and other content like the blog, and as well as a link to the Discord at our website, retrologic.games. So until next time, this has been Sam and John from RetroLogic. Give my regards to the next frog you meet.
Later.